Hey, good afternoon. Is this the first class of today?
Second.
And prior to this there was a break?
Yeah, we
Let's unpack, let's get started. Newspapers away, laptops out of bags, drains on. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is important. Okay. The chat case, which might be on your exam. So how do we analyze a case like this? Page 92 of the law collection and further, or the online version you found following the link. Not the link, but the title in the course description. What is the recipe for such a contract analysis? Parties, considerations, context, the clauses on the main obligations of parties, plural. So obligations one direction, obligations the other direction. As in 95% of all the contracts on the globe, irrespective of the type of parties involved, the private individuals, corporations, states, all from a legal point of view, legal persons able to carry or to bear rights and obligations, and contracts are the tool to create those obligations, apart from other sources of law. Main obligations, and then critical lawyering clauses like the term, how long, determination, how can we get rid of each other, and the applicable law and dispute settlement. And that is where we come in. Others, engineers, accountants, they are experts in main obligations. As in, are we able to assume this responsibility, this contractual liability to create a dam or a hospital or a highway or an airplane and so forth. And we are the experts in terms, termination. And what are the circumstances that legally we should be able to say goodbye to each other? And if we run into interpretation issues, which is always one of the challenges of any contract. What did we mean 6 years ago with the words tree, or village, or indigenous people, or environment, or child labor? And then applicable law helps the interpretation method. Because if you are not writing down explicit clauses, then hopefully in other sources of law, as you are used to at the end of year 2, answers are available for questions you have. Child labor. Well, there's no definition of child in the contract. Well, let's look in other applicable sources of law, like local family law, where there's maybe a clause on a child is everybody until 14. Or other sources that could help to interpret, is this person, human being of 13, to be considered as child or not? Can it work or not? Question mark. You open the contract, 1,000 pages, $3 million on lawyer cost, and no definition of child. Thank you, lawyer. And then you open other sources of law. And then you have to realize that dispute settlement is something you can do together. So mature parties to a contract can settle their own disputes, as 99% of all disputes on the globe are settled by the parties. So don't think that running into dispute means you have to lay back and wait until the appointed dispute settler is doing its job. Now you can solve disputes. Remember introduction to law, 2 functions of lawyers: to convince a judge when you're in court, or a dispute settlement mechanism, or to avoid that you get there. So if you know how an arbiter thinks in a dispute settlement mechanism, then you can whisper that in the ear of your client and say, well, if you do this and this and this, that would then be in line how it would be in arbitration, in the official dispute settlement mechanism, and that saves us 3 years litigation and a lot of costs. And that is why arbitration, dispute settlement is part of legal education. And courts and litigation, all the other areas of law where you are trained to think as a judge, and if you're able to think as a judge, then you can avoid together. Well, let's apply that in this workshop lecture on the Gent case. So who are we talking about? So how would you engage with such a topic in the setting of a 3-hour exam where people devote their whole life to such a project? And so what is then sort of the key I want to hear? So who wishes to kickstart? Start. So the question is, let's put it that way, draw a drawing of the project similar to the non-term 2 drawing, and explain your drawing. So that's sort of the exam question. And then the law collection with one legal instrument on the topic is at your table. So step 1 is parties, and then you have this one loan agreement. And what can we take out of such a legal instrument when it comes to the parties? Remember, such a legal instrument is sort of Matryoshka puppet phenomena. That the loan agreement has 2 parties, the first 2 lines, and then in the further text, all kinds of other parties are mentioned. So you can, in the loan agreement, you can open the loan agreement, there's a new puppet. You can open that when you follow the text. So, step 1. On the basis of the available information provided to me through the law collection, blah, 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 I base my answer on a loan agreement between, so there we have the 2 first parties. Well, Chad and Cameroon. Being?
The International Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
Exactly. Also known as? Exactly. So here we have a state and the World Bank. That immediately brings the whole story based on 2 lines into sort of the realm of discourse, finance and development, which soft law is then sort of whispering in the ear of this legal instrument in the back. Corporate social responsibility, based on which soft law instrument? So broader perspective. It's okay. Neighbor? Neighbor in the back? What's the question? What's the question?
What soft law instrument comes to mind when you look at this loan agreement?
What soft law instrument is coming to mind when you see such an agreement where International Bank for Reconstruction and Development pops up? Millennium Goals, and in the slipstream of that?
Doha,
Doha. 2 more names?
Monterrey,
Monterrey
University.
and Busan. So what's the correct order? The correct order over here? Yes?
First one is Millennium.
Indeed.
Then last one is Busan.
Exactly.
Monterrey before Busan, and the last one is Central.
The last one is?
Doha.
Doha. Almost right.
Monterrey second, Doha.
Monterrey second. So the Millennium, year 2000. And Monterrey, Mexico. Doha, Qatar. Busan, South Korea. And then 2 weeks ago, back in Mexico. But I gave you that. The World Bank was on the table of all those meetings. And signed up to what type of goals and objectives? Neighbor. So when you look at the actor in this agreement, what do we know? And knowing that the World Bank was at the table of Monterrey, Doha, Busan, what did they commit to? The signature is under that instrument. We, the heads of states and civil society and international organizations like the World Bank, commit to. And you have sort of pages full of paradigms. Alright? That's not something. So describe me the paradigm. The thinking of finance and development. What was sort of the sort of practical, which word did I use? The outcome of it. What did they develop in that kitchen? Yeah? And then there are these steps, and I call that what?
One recipe.
The recipe. And so they describe the paradigms of happy developed countries and people with capabilities to develop themselves in the direction they want. Freedom and chances and so forth. And then to come to the paradigms, you need sort of recipe, sort of action plan. Alright, and what's the action plan? And so there are different action plans on the globe. One is pray hard, alright? And I acknowledge that one. That's a very good one. But that is not something you can translate easily to an instrument of 600 pages. So this is an alternative recipe. Including what? So you are now at the Busan table. There with all these heads of states and civil society and World Bank and well, what's the whole point? I agree, we have a few more weeks to the exam. Neighbor. What was the whole point? What was the... Yeah, and of the resulting soft law that is dominating these parties. They were there, they signed off.
They were, from what I know, at least so far from trade law, they were also discussing trade.
Yes, but we are one quarter further. Ladies and gentlemen, the question is, what is the recipe, neighbor?
Recipe for what?
For what? Dancing the tango? So what's the name of this course, sir? Okay, let's start easy. What is your name? And what's the name of this institution?
University of Applied Science.
And in which year are you?
Third,
And which quarter are you?
12,
And what's my name?
Mr. from Manila.
And what's the name of the course?
FND,
the recipe. But you know, it's common, it's regular logic. You have a laptop, so you can easily open the slide on which the recipe is sort of typed out by me, personally. And between cornered brackets, I repeat them each time, which is a sort of indication this might be important. Alright, so let's do some study technique here. So what is the recipe? I'm not joking. Another laptop. Yes.
Domestic resources, national resources, trade, structural assistance, livelihoods, and saving.
Exactly, and next to those nouns, which verbs are not on that slide, but crucial? Because with nouns we do not conquer the world. Okay, so we need action words like verbs. And we have them here. Yes?
To mobilize.
To mobilize. So the full version is to mobilize domestic resources.
To mobilize international resources.
Exactly. Perfect trade. To apply reasonable official development assistance. To do debt relief and to stay engaged. Alright. So when the actor in this contract is a bank, not a regular commercial bank, but a sort of international state-owned bank, in which part of the recipe are you? Neighbor. Yeah? Yeah. Also for you, B, which part of the recipe are we in this loan agreement? Yes? I agree. Yeah. So one more loud and clear. Structural assistance, also known as ODA, stands for exactly. Official Development Assistance.
But Mr. Van Bemmelen.
And then, which parties, which actors on the same page 1 of the loan agreement, are in the second pillar? Answering your question.
You mean the chat?
So which parties?
Chat is in the, I think, in the first step, mobilizing domestic.
No, you cannot say that the state is in the first pillar. No, the state is sort of circling above in all pillars. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Second and third, maybe.
okay, let's not too fast, because we are at square one, I realize. So it's correct, this is the fourth pillar, being the official development assistance. How does it work? Explain with the World Bank and the Republic of Chad. How is this the official development assistance?
For official development assistance, you need at least a 25% grant. It has to be from a public sector, and it has to be for structural investment for the country itself. That's what I remember.
Yeah, so what is the source of money in the pillar official development assistance? Say it again?
Domestic resources.
No, that's the first pillar. So this is the fourth pillar. So whose money?
Foreign investment.
No, it's state.
National resources.
That's state, but otherwise.
So now you mention all the pillars in one sentence. So lack of a lottery. So the first pillar, domestic resources. Second pillar, international private resources. Maybe the P word helps to remember. Then trade, we skip that one. And then the fourth pillar, official development assistance. State. So in the fourth pillar we talk about state money. Which state? The developing state or the rich member of a rich country club being the OECD?
Rich.
With the EU as the biggest party there. And how does a OECD member state acquires money? Taxes. From who? You. So it's your money. Alright? Maybe that makes it sort of real. So we talk about how your money is spent, ladies and gentlemen. And as with other consumer and citizenship decisions, you want this money to be spent well. And you do not want to be the only one who spends money. That is why we have the other three pillars first, before they touch your money. That's the recipe. That's the idea of the international community, how we should approach development. Cool. So, we move on the same page. And then, which other companies do we meet in this loan agreement? What's the first, next company we meet? Over here. The full name, not sub D. Yeah, but then the yeah, and they have those lovely, sexy names that fit in sort of advertisement. Yeah, and then the full name is?
Bemmelen Oil Transportation Company, SA, and Gent Oil Transportation.
Exactly. Totco and Totco. Totco and Totco. All right. And then we move to sub C. What is also going on? What can we conclude from sub C? Exactly. So there's a similar loan to Cameroon. So based on this loan agreement, we know it was signed. We know that there was a similar loan agreement. So one from the World Bank to Chad and one to Cameroon. So it's sort of twin drawing we ultimately get with this case. Who is then ultimately building and exploiting the red pipeline? So before we start drawing, we need to sort of identify which party is sort of the center of the activity. And we have now 5 options. We have the World Bank, we have the country Chad, we have the country Cameroon, we have Totco and Totco. Kotco and Kotco.
One of these two.
Yeah. So, why the companies?
Because the state of Chad have created this or hired these companies, to build this. I don't know what it is, and they are basically.
You know what it is? There's a picture on the screen.
Pipeline, yeah.
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 And so don't hesitate. This is about Getting oil out of the soil